Yes, there we are. This is what Stano has drawn in tomorrow's publication of the People Daily Kenyan News in the 80s. We were talking about the Green City in the Sun. Welcome to Nairobi, the Green City in the Sun. But now look, we cross over to 2025. Welcome to Naibari, the Goon's City on fire. And this is what we are talking about in regard to the protest that has been ongoing. And people now also protesting over the critical life condition that he is in. This is Boniface Kariuki, who was shot yesterday in the CBD, fighting for his life. It seems that, we are none the wiser and reading the events and times that we're in. Even after all this protest over Albert Ojwang, the police will have the temerity to shoot another man. Where do we lose it? Right?
You see, it means you are not born in 1977 when the President Kenyatta's regime sent 9 policemen to kill me.
To kill you?
Yeah, they came with the pangas and simis. They cut this finger off, you can see.
Wow.
And this, and you can see. And this bone was cut. And the intestine, I was left dead.
Your intestines were actually out?
I did 1977 Labor Day, because in the morning I preached and I said people should reclaim their people given sovereignty from the Kikuyu middle class. And I said Kenya is being ruled by, the government is an ideology of the Kikuyu middle class. That was so offensive to the government of the day that evening I preached that at the Lift Up Your Heart program in the morning on Labor Day. On that evening, 9 policemen visited my home and left me dead. I was in the hospital for ICU, dead. But
You're in the ICU?
Yeah?
You're in the ICU, okay.
Okay. Sorry, but I was very happy for being in heaven for 3 days. But the thing is...
You were in the heavens for 3 days?
You see, the problem is that I was not preaching in order to be killed. But whatever happened, 3 times I've been left dead, you remember? The Saba.
Yes.
At All Saints. And also at Budget Day, the thing you show in your TV.
Yes.
When I was beaten in front of Parliament. All these things is not to me matter, because the important thing is not I was beaten. The important thing is I carried the cross. The important thing is I did exactly, and even if I died completely, I was dying for the same purpose Jesus died. That was the the greatest point. So I even did not forgive people because they were doing their crime. But I was trying to bring righteousness to replace their criminal behavior and to change society. Jesus died to change us, to save us from those kind of situations. So I'm saying, if I could die doing that, then I was carrying up my mandate. And that's why, let me put it this way. My point was to call people to reclaim their God-given sovereignty from the one-party state which had stolen that sovereignty. And that theft was of one party. You know when it began. And you know that people agreed to come to the streets. And you know, even I was sacked. For 2 years, I lost my collar.
You're defrocked, yes?
Yes, I was defrocked because of proclaiming that. You know, because the churches in the medieval time believed that the state owed sovereignty from God. No, it owes, according to the Bible, it owes sovereignty from the people. It is the people who are given sovereignty, the mandate to govern the world, the birds of the air, the fish of the sea. You know that. Correct. Everything, the mandate. And God created people in his own likeness, meaning sovereign. People created, the state is a creature of the people. Correct. We are creatures of God.
Right.
And as secondary, as God, it has nothing to do with the state. It is us who have to do with the state because we create it.
Correct.
We create the state, and it owes to us the mandate to govern, and it can only use the mandate delegated to it by us. So,
we the people.
So I'm saying, when the Israelites assumed that they can create their state, even after Babylon, after Egypt, God disbanded them and took them to Babylon because they were arrogant. They thought God owes to be God from them, and they owe their life from God. So I'm trying to say that the Kenya government owes its life from us. And it owes its existence from us.
Correct.
And the moment you are talking of goons, it's not the goons, it is the government which is a goon. And I'm saying that it's only bringing more goons. You see, you call the ultimate responsibility. In 2007 elections, there was post-election violence, which the instigators, two of the main ones, Ruto being one, were taken to Hague to be tried for instigating violence against the people. They called it what? Crime
against humanity.
Yeah? Crime against humanity. Now that he went through all these charges that he was given about that kind of masterminding, those kind of things, and then the Hague withdrew, the ICC withdrew, but now that we cannot, he is not being called because of what is happening under his auspices, under his power, and now that the Hague is not calling him again, he should, what should he do? We should wait for him to leave office and take him back to Hague to answer for all the violences that have happened under his auspices, because he is repeating, he is reincarnating them instead of abolishing them. He is using the state.
Thank you.
He is repeating the 2007 inside the state, what he used outside the state. And I think you advise him, because you are a good advisor. advise him to eliminate the possibilities of being recalled to Hague after he leaves office.
Thank you. Thank you. I think by now we've got bloated, ranks of advisors. I don't want to go to the budget of being one of our advisors anymore. But let me just come to Dr. Fred Ogola, because I think even when you're talking about the church in your other life, I know that really rings a bell to you. And I'd asked very pointedly from Daktari here, Reverend Joya, to tell us, did the church lose its prophetic voice and discernment in the moment that we were actually having this government come to power, because the church was fully involved in this? They were satiated in prayers. We saw also verses were quoted during their particular at Bomas, you remember, when now we had the announcement of the presidential results. Fred Ogola.
Yeah, first of all, let me just say something short.
Sure.
That in 2008, when we went to The Hague, do you know that the president was an ICC suspect? His lawyer is the current deputy, and the witness was the current DCI. Which kind of state are we having? Are you saying that this is true, that facts don't lie, isn't it? In 2008, the president was a suspect of ICC. His lawyer is the current DP. And the witness was Ibrahim Mohammed Amin. So I said this thing in 2022, the ballot. Actually, this was said in live media. And I said that the question for the election was never who has a good manifesto. Because Kenya Kwanza manifesto, I did a similarity test. There's a tool we call Turnitin. You put them together. They were 98% similar. So that's why you can see now ODM and UDA don't have a problem being together. Their manifesto was the same. The only thing we needed to ask that, whom can you trust with the state? If Debala am to leave this room urgently, can I leave my wallet with you or with Professor Menya or Dr. Njoya? I think I leave my wallet with Dr. Njoya. I don't know about you. What I'm trying to say is, an election question is, whom can you trust with treasury? You know the word treasury, first of all, there's a treasure that is given to a treasurer, a trusted person, isn't it?
Right.
Who will treasure it? A country is a treasure, is a hidden treasure in Kenya in terms of people, in terms of the youth, the intelligent people. The church entered in a mixed grill. You know, mixed grill, when you go to a restaurant, you order mixed grill, isn't it? Which means you are eating chicken plus pork, isn't it? Plus meat, plus mutton. The church must have violated, they could have eaten what they should eat. By coming to endorse anybody, the church made a mistake. And I think that we need a national convention, isn't it? So that we can know who went wrong. Because not only Ruto went wrong, many people went wrong. There are so many people went wrong. People should come back to the table, and actually the church should acknowledge where they went wrong. They preached this man. They sold this man. I was in Azimio communication, Debal. I was in shows with some of those pastors. They would not listen. They even funded it. So when I saw the guy is saying, I'm sorry, during the National Prayer Day, then 2 days later, he's this guy. The problem, according to me, I think, Debal, because I'm not here to talk about problems, because I'm a governance expert. The fact that the policemen are in charge of internal affairs, interior. That's why we have Minister for Interior, Minister for Defense. The interior is to ensure that the citizens are safe and their property. Now that goons, which are inside the government, have become external aggressors, I'm sorry to say, the military need to come back, need to come and now protect citizens, because they have allegiance to the citizen, the civilian. Because if the president cannot do what he needs to do, remember, in the State of the Nation address, the president must tackle the issue of national security, rule of law, economics, isn't it? And how people are surveying healthcare, education. Those ones are very important things he has to do. They have failed, Sodebal. The reason why we are having Ojwang dead, why we are having our brothers suffering, Wakina Rex Masai, those people have been killed, abducted and the rest, is one thing people don't know. Is a systemic failure in government. When you can't perform as a head of state, you become existential risk. Just like Debal, if you're at home and your husband, and you can't perform, kids can't be taken to school, your wife is not happy in every department or at home. You know, there are so many departments at home. If he's not happy in all departments, they turn to you, and then they start asking you to perform. What you do, you take a gun and shoot them. You start banging tables. You start kicking them. You start being a drunk and misbehaving. You become abusive. We are having an abusive relationship because they can't deliver. And you ask an important question. How did a police, after even the death of Ojwang, open a trigger on somebody? Debala have done some research for the last 4 days, and I can tell you there are 4 fundamental problems that the police system have. First, there's the leadership issue, which is obvious. I don't want to explain it because this is obvious. The second one, there is a problem which we are tribalizing the police, whereby some people believe that if you are an IG from Nyeri, from Madeira, you cannot be heading the police service. And these are facts. The war between Kanja and Langat is what has led to the death of Ojwang, because some people wanted to frame Kanja, and then you want to use people to frame this person, then this person gets annoyed, and then he opens fire. You understand? That is, so Ojwang has been caught on the crossfire, and many young people have been caught on the crossfire. That's a talk about tribalizing it. I also can tell you a case whereby a police officer, I can even tell her name. Her name is called Charity Wangoi. She was in charge of the police in Mombasa. She comes from Madeira. they say is a relative to Gachagua. She had to be transferred from Mombasa to Meru because of the influence she was having there. You don't tribalize the police force. And anybody trying to do that is creating a risk. In fact, military people fight together as people of Kenya defending Kenya. Policemen should defend Kenya without knowing their tribe. When you tribalize police, you create a problem. The third one is the issue of something happened before people don't know the consequences. We merge the police, Kenya police, and AP. Sisi Wajaluo, AP tunaita Kanga. Unajua Kanga? Now, how are APs being promoted? Mtu ameenda recover people's chicken somewhere, the DO will promote them. You know, the DO and DC had a say in the promotion of the APs. Now he has been promoted to chief inspector while without doing what's called promotional courses. There are courses in the Kenya police that when you're due for promotion, you must do. So if you're promoted by just going to recover cattle from a certain village, then you become a chief inspector, then you qualify to become an OCS. If you become a deputy inspector, you become now deputy OCS. So some of the people within the ranks of AP were promoted without promotional courses, and you could see a lot of problems when they are now doing diligence. How can a policeman not even know an order of doing OB? Then you think there's a joke. So there's a lot of battle there about the merger that took place between the Kenya police. Kenya police tend to be a bit more competent. Sorry to say these are facts clearly. The AP tend not to be, but there was a merger and they were mixed. So you could see some people became very senior with promotion from the AP level. Now they are in charge of the Kenya police, highly qualified, and the Kenya police can see glaringly a problem. I have a policeman in Mombasa who cannot even write a statement. And is in charge of the Kenya police who knows everything. Like if you meet this policeman, he does not even know any act that tells them, even criminal act, even how to collect evidence. They don't know what that there's a guidance or how to collect evidence. The last one, the policemen have been wiped off dignity, the BAL. Today as a police station, I won't tell you which one. There's a policewoman who tells me they live in a 2-bedroom house, 4 families, and that they are paying rent which is not commensurate to the value of that house. Government is doing business with the policemen. They do business with their uniform. Someone who comes to power wants new uniform. Someone who comes to power wants to build houses for policemen. Then keep them in concentration camps. So if we don't solve these problems, if I was president, I was in Spain for 6 years. It's a welfare state. Security is treated very nicely. In Kenya, they have lost dignity. So that policeman could easily having some frustrations that you cannot even explain. And human beings, we are very psychological. We are very emotive. What they are going through, we don't need police reforms. We need transformation in the police. We don't need, reforms are useless. We've had so many of them. We need transformation in the police, detribalize that police, look for promotional courses so that people are promoted on meritocracy. I see some policemen who are very senior, who don't even have what it takes. Even if you listen to their construction of sentences, you question how they got those positions. But also have policemen who are very brilliant, highly educated. Even one of them was master in STARTIMES at master level. He did an MBA and was among the brightest. I won't say the name because I don't want to give them trouble. I meet very brilliant policemen, but I also meet policemen who have no decorum. Even if you go to the offices, they know nothing. So according to me, there's a need to do a transformation in the police force and give them dignity. And I want to tell Kenyans, don't balkanize all policemen to be bad, because I'm seeing now, people are now saying, I have a relative with a policeman, a cousin. Please don't see everyone bad, but we need police transformation.
Thank you, thank you. Let me come to Professor Alfred here. Just listening to what Dr. Ogolla is mentioning here about transformation, we don't need any reforms anymore. Just going with the current state of play that we do have, and listening also to the CS of Interior with some of the, should I say, reforms, 5 of them that they do want, digitization of the OB, which should have been done, ages ago. It was just in the pipeline. making sure also that there's upskilling and, of course, retraining of police. Still, we're talking a good game of what we've been talking throughout the years. Nothing that is very different from what we've had before. Is there a full-scale rollback of the mileage we've made as a country up to this particular time when it comes to police reforms and what is happening currently, from your own assessment?
Yeah, the balance will go to the thesis, the fundamentals as it is in terms of how we run society. Yeah, because I think the issues that we have with the reforms, the issues that we have with the police are basically rollbacks in governance that is reflected at different levels. And I've said, time without number actually, that what we see our current leaders trying to do, they're actually putting a lot of effort to operate outside of the law. And a lot of things are sneaked in. You know, if you look at the unholy alliance that we are calling broad-based government, there is no provision for such things in our law. They are not envisaged in our law. We're joking here about advisors to the president. These things were not envisaged in our law. It was thought that, you know, the offices that you know, we needed to have constitutionally were reflected in the law. If you see, for example, the way government is organized today, where you're more likely to be in the executive if you're a politician, mm-hmm. That is not what the law envisaged. The law envisaged a situation where the executive were executive, non-political, Kenyans serving Kenyans generally. It wasn't thought that a local MP would then become a minister. In fact, those were some of the things that we're trying to undo. And this goes all the way to the police. We have all these laws. We have criminal procedures laws. We have national police service law, and a whole lot of plethoras of laws outside there. But if you look at how the police functions today, and it has really nothing to do with how it was meant to function. And this is a bigger thesis that I'm actually trying to put, that you know, when you look at the state as a social contract, guarded by plethora of provisions that then, you know, defines formality, let me call it that, or good sense, or basically predictability, as it were. What's happening is that those who are currently running the states are operating informally. They're operating outside of the formal systems. That is all the way from the president to Raila Odinga to the man who was ordering the killing of Albert. None of these people are following procedures. None of them are bothered what the Constitution intended to achieve. None of them are bothered about laws that govern them. None of them are bothered about procedures and so on. Mm. So my point here is that politicization of the Kenyan system is actually, it is a state cannibalizing itself, mm-hmm. where you're saying, no, I'm going to put my friends in the police force so that they protect me, and then they're answerable to me. You are actually undermining the police command. Mm-hmm. You are undermining the Police Service Act, mm-hmm. because it was never meant to function that way. Mm-hmm. So here we are over-glorifying, and again, these sort of actors, the way they act, Dibal, is very interesting. If you put your brother in a place, you know, you will not tell him that, look here, bro, the law says you do 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Because you still have a relationship with this person as your brother. Mm. The person will call you and tell you, bro, I've just shot some guys here, you know, because they were talking badly against you. And then you're on the ropes trying to tell him, no, you know, you're actually messing up for me. So as far as I'm concerned, if we continue with these informal arrangements without fidelity to the law, if we continue with tribalism itself, we've even done acts of parliament that ensures that you know, basically what you call the face of Kenya is projected. Tribalism itself is a threat to the state. Mm-hmm. Because it's the same thing. I mean, when I put my brother in a place, it's very difficult for this person, and especially if I put him there particularly because he's my brother, it's very difficult to again come and tell this person that, look here, according to this particular procedure, you are meant to do things in this and that way. That person will act first and foremost as my brother. And that is what's happening. We are seeing people employing their brothers, in the highest offices in this land. We have seen people employing their wives. We are seeing people employing people from their village to run the security forces and so on. And if you look at the Albert case, one of the things that was most fascinating about it was actually breakdown in command of the police service. How the command was shifting from the DIG to the OCS, to a corporal, to criminals. In fact, the criminals were part of the command. The ones that were being given alcohol and being given money. So my point, and that's my bigger message to government and to a lot of Kenyans in positions of responsibility. If you really want to succeed, have fidelity to these rules, because these rules have taken a lot of time. If you look at a basic case like criminal procedure found itself in our books in 1930. 1930, colonial government. And then, of course, they've actually kept updating it. That the colonialists themselves realized that if you don't follow a procedure, you'll actually act against your own interest. But if you follow a procedure, you'll be able to then actually have a stable society. But even more fundamentally, when the people you signed with the social contract, and you're meant to be executing that contract, basically lose faith in you because you don't seem to be following this is basically collapse of society. Would you, Dibal, I'm asking you now as a brother and a friend, if you're in trouble in this town, would you go to the police? The police would be the last resort. You might go to the police and they rob you. You're actually more likely to go to some friends and so.
Yeah, but we cannot use that,
the point I'm trying to say here, is that we've lost social contract. Let me give you. We have good police officers. No.
It would be unfair to just use a broad brushstroke to paint them in a negative way.
Sorry, I mean
we have good police officers.
This is not really about the police. The point I'm trying to actually say here. And it's not just personal, it's generally how government works.
Thank you.
Currently, that you cannot actually systematically follow a procedure. You don't even know what the procedure is. I get something approved because I know the person. Let me give you a case. Today, we're discussing an issue in the Ministry of Education, and we are told, sorry, this matter can only be sorted out in Treasury. And we say, okay, fine, can you give us a letter? They say, no, we can't give you a letter, there's no regulation. So we ask the people, how can we go about this? They tell us, look here, why don't you talk to a member of parliament to talk to the person in Treasury because he's a Jaluo to be able to sort out this matter. I will not go beyond that, but that happened today. That is how the country is running. If something is stuck, you'll be told, but you know Raila. Why can't you talk to Raila to talk to somebody else? And that's what I'm saying, that this informalization of the state, this chronism, tribalism, all these isms, the kleptocracy, all these things are actually against the interest of the state itself. And what you'd expect from sensible leaders is to wake up every day to kill these things so that we have predictability in our procedures and restore the trust between the citizens and the state.
Right, so I wanted just to ask you as well, what are you reading from your tea leaves when you see ODM now threatening to actually break away from the broad-based government if police brutality continues? Is this just a political posturing and a political expediency that they want to get from this as well, knowing this brutality, Kenyans are really fulminating with anger because of what is happening. So this might be, a payback going to 2027.
In fact,
some of the leaders who will not be elected.
In fact, your question is an answer in this way. You talk here, and from what you hear outside there, do you think Kenyans are actually very happy about the government? Do you think Kenyans are very happy with their parties? Do you think Kenyans are very happy with their leaders? When we had the issue last year of the finance bill, who was attacked? It wasn't Ruto, it was parliamentarians. So we need to be honest that as we are speaking, Kenyans are unhappy with the political leadership, and it's not broad brush. You saw the anger that was yes, when the youths and the fellows in the movement were talking about visiting people, the people that were being visited included many members of parliament whose own people were actually very unhappy with. And the question that, again, I would like to pose there, because in fact, I happen to belong to ODM, and I've been one of those people who have been very vocal against the broad-based government. Do we really think that members of ODM are very excited about the broad-based government, really? We have a situation where the two brothers in ODM, and I come from that particular constituency, Bondo. So we have a situation where Raila comes and says, no, we are not in the broad-based government. We just lent some experts to help. And Oburu comes and says, we are fully in broad-based government. This to me illustrates informality. Surely, you are both senior leaders of a party, and you are even brothers to boot. And you have no idea whether you are in government or you are not. That to me is informality. So my bigger point here, Dibal, is that from where I sit, number one, I'm totally disgruntled with the current political situation in the country, including that broad-based government. Secondly, the broad-based government itself, yes, they were reasoning that they were getting in there. They were getting in there to be able to, to stabilize the country, and there's some 10-point agenda. And the bigger point I'm actually trying to say is that you cannot create some of these secondary instruments, without considering the basic social contract in society. And to me, that is not addressed and will not be addressed. The social contract we had was in the elections. And we did elect a party to govern for 5 years. And another party wasn't elected. So I think you have to be very careful. We joke about these things, but this is how you end up with informality. This is how you end up with a situation where people lose trust in their government and so on. Because, yes, we're laughing and saying, you steal elections and we steal your president.
Yes.
But that to me is the highest element of informality, where you're saying, look here, we will ignore the social contract and we shall still find a way of running the country despite the social contract. And that's what we are seeing in all these places.
Right, and this also brings the issue of multipartism, which actually you are in the trenches fighting for, Reverend Dr. Timothy Njoya. Beaten black and blue, that we might, of course, have a country where people will have different voices and parties. Looking at what is happening with the coalitions, looking with what is happening with broad-based governments, we were talking about the BBS even before, how is it a threat to democracy? Because we're stifling the voices and the parties that, as it were, and what we really fought for with the constitutional change.
Let me give you
Section 2A.
a new vocabulary.
Yes.
In the past, we talked about post-election violence. We didn't have the word pre-election violence. Today, what we have is not post-election. It is the pre-electionalization of the state. We have pre-electionalized the government. We have co-opted the government. The government, the executive has co-opted the parliament. So we have no state. So when you are talking about the state today, we are lying. There is no state without parliament, judiciary, and what you call it, executive.
Yes.
So now, since parliament was co-opted, and especially in the bill, you call it what? The election, the voting of the last bill, which was rejected.
Finance bill.
Finance bill. That co-option is still there. The parliament is still part and organ of pre-electionalization, of helping to win the election, the coming one. And I'm saying, because of this, two things in Kenya. I am thinking ideologically myself, because I'm a believer of values and systems, and values and principles, that this pre-election requires two functions: ethnicity, balkanization into ethnic support for the who will win elections, That is pre-electionalization. Then the other one is economic exclusion. You include some, you exclude those who don't support you. Those are the two major powerful driving principles in this pre-electionalization of Kenya. And that if you are either suffering exclusion from economy or ethnicity, isolation by ethnicity. Only two. Those are the two basic values and blocks that balkanize Kenya into those areas. Whether you are included in the economy, whether you are excluded in the tribes, which we have no parties anymore. What we have is we don't have political parties. We have only kleptocrats and kleptocracies. We don't have any parties anymore. These people, they are thieves who are leading these parties. And I'm saying, what I'm saying that is that if you don't want to if you are not supporting the pre-election ideology, you are nowhere in Kenya today.
But what is ideology? Are we talking about ideology?
But before I talk,
I will struggle to define what ideology is here.
But before I leave here, the ideology is a belief that something is, whether it is not, it is or it isn't. But let me tell you, what he is talking about police, I don't believe, because policemen are men and women with families, with lives, who go to churches, who do many other things. We have corrupt policemen as we have corrupt politicians and even corrupt clergymen. What I'm trying to say is that we have this kind of people everywhere, even in the media, who tell me to pay them to cover me. But the thing is this.
Are you included?
You see,
the value is not there.
But what I'm trying to say is this. I'm a member and a founder of the Gong Peacekeeping Committee. We call it Zambia. I live in Zambia. Zambia, El Paso, Yuanco, Peacekeeping Committee.
That is a street, so that they don't actually.
What I'm saying that the police.
They don't get confused that you live in Zambia. Zambia is a street along here. Yes.
No, now I'm saying, since I've been in a peace committee,
yes,
I am talking to the police station at Gong almost all the time. When I hear something, if I hear a cry, I call the police. And I've never seen better clergymen than the Gong policemen.
Mm-hmm. Better
clergymen are not as good as the police. There's no church in Gong which is as good as the Gong police station. You see?
Correct.
And I'm talking the truth.
Yeah.
I'm educating a boy, a street boy, garbage collector. I took him and took him to school. I don't want to mention that school. The school he was attacked by two other boys. To whom do I go to sort out the problem with that school?
To the police station.
To the police. Recently, we had another problem, and I went to the police, and they sorted it out. And they do it so quickly and so well that I have come to think that the police station at Gong is as good as a church, or even better. So, I'm talking the truth. I'm talking the truth. Something happened to somebody in Nairobi. He was being harassed by other policemen for driving wrongly, and he had not. I called the policeman, the commander at Gong. Soon, that issue was sorted by, he called other commanders. And not only that, if anything happened to you in Mombasa, and you are from Prongong, tell me, and I'll call the police, and it will be helped to sort it out.
But,
so I'm trying to say that.
No, but aren't you also
am I
inculcating the culture of corruption? Yeah, if somebody is driving on the wrong side,
it's a matter
you
of,
as a clergy,
I'm talking about.
Why would you call a commander or whoever?
I call them because they can conduct other police stations.
No, so that he can be bailed out, the person who has been driving on the wrong side.
No.
Yeah,
not bailing out. Not bailing out, but...
Why were you calling him?
Because he was being asked to bribe.
Okay.
You understand? He was not being asked, he was being detained in the car to bribe. But anyway, sorry, because I don't want to be known who it is. But I'm trying to...
Okay.
Let me put this way.
Of time.
I was just going to correct the policemen are bad.
No.
Therefore, I had to move the other way of praising them so that I counterbalance him.
No.
Now, so let me put it this way. I cannot condemn my whole flock. You know, I'm a pastor. I have to say that there are people, rotten eggs in every basket.
That is true.
You understand?
That's very true.
Yeah. So let me put
The point is really not about individuals. The bigger point I was trying to make is about systems. Once you corrupt systems, you know...
okay, I agree. The corrupted system is there, but I'm saying that even in that system...
They're good, they'll be good people.
They are good citizens.
They're good citizens.
They are good citizens. So let me finish what I was trying to say about the pre-electionalization of the society. That everything today, even the money bags being carried and taken, is about elections, 2027 elections. So we should focus on doing that. We should, all forces in Kenya, all churches should preach against the pre-electionalization of their members, so that they can make a decision who they elect, because they are not electionalized.
But isn't the church setting up the stage for this particular? Isn't the church setting up the stage for what you're calling the pre-electionalization?
Yes,
because now we have all the politicians waiting for
not all of them,
so that they can actually stand and give their stump speeches.
Some have refused the money. Some churches have refused to be bribed.
Few and far in between, you'll call some of these churches. They are very few and far in between. Okay. Very few churches.
Yeah, but even if it is one, it's a good example that the whole Kenya is not going to the dogs. There was a time when we were very few. Me, Muge, Gitari, and...
the fiery quartet, as they call it.
Yes, at the Bishop Kuru.
Yes.
At the end, our voice was followed by the masses. Okay? Not the mob voice, but the mob, the reasonable few. And I think that there is, just as I was saying, there are reasonable few policemen.
True.
I think there are reasonable few journalists.
Right, but maybe I should, before I come to Dr. Fred Ogola, do you think we, even as looking at the church and looking at the state, and of course they always say, oh, we should not really couple the church and the state together, they should be separate. Do you think we have clergy and we have ministers, so to speak, of a church who were very vocal as a fiery quartet as you are, that they know inside them, in the deepest recesses of their heart, they are not corrupt? They can stand out and be very vocal to speak against, the power of...
I can boldly...
of a day.
I can boldly say...
epic of time that we live.
I can boldly say, and unequivocally, that the majority of clergymen are corrupt.
Well, all right, let's leave it at that. We'll come to it. Right.
I am saying that very boldly because I'm with them.
You're with them.
I know. Instead of going to church to offer money to God, we go to church to offer money to them.
Right. Thank you. Let's hear from Dr. Fred Ogola.
Yes.
I just wanted to bring the issue back of the broad-based government, and I'd point that also to our reverend here. But I don't know, what is your assessment right now? Do you think this is just political posturing and seeking for expediency and survival politically?
Yeah, first of all, when someone says that broad-based is God-sent, he's right, because broad-based has taught us how not to run a country. So maybe that is a lesson we've learned. There is no useless experience. In fact, I heard someone saying somewhere, there's a young man who told me, Ruto is a useless president. No. Ruto is not. There is no. He is useful. His usefulness, his uselessness can actually be so useful to know how not to be a president. Because you look at him, the incompetence, everything is there. But story for another day. Lessons we've learned from a broad-based government when they went to the street and said that we have high cost of living and that we need to lower government expenditure. Now, do you know why there's allocation in State House rising? We have two heads of state. There's Raila Odinga, who has to be funded as a head of state. Ruto is a head of state. We also have two deputy presidents, right? There's one on the other side and there's one on this side. So because Raila Odinga also had his people he was working with, he didn't go to broadcast alone, he went with other people. So government is expanded. So if you see Ruto getting some advisors in the State House, some of them are Raila's advisors, but now they are called State House advisors because Jaoko is not advising Ruto, he's advising Raila. And then that's the issue. Now when you hear these people saying they want to live broad-based, the main question is, one, they are not in government. When they are not happy, then they say now they want to leave government. So it's obvious that they are scheming. If you want to understand this clearly, go back the ball to 2022. Whenever Raila was promised something and it's not forthcoming, you could hear Sifuna saying, I'm even walking with a sufra in my car. So once they put sufra on their head, then they say, oh, then that check is released. So when you hear now ODM saying they are not happy in this marriage, they're not happy because Ojwang has been killed. They're not happy because these guys were shooting young people. Because people had been killed before. Kware was there when they joined government. So what they are not leaving government. Mark my word, I've done my calculations. No one can afford Raila Odinga. What do I mean? Mbadi is in government, isn't it? Do you think Mbadi will leave treasury because Raila is not happy? Do you think Pierre and I will leave energy because Raila is not happy? What about Joho? So you count those people in government and then also go to relatives of Raila Odinga. Someone employs for you your friends, plus your family members, and also makes you treat well. You can fly a plane the way you want. You are walking on red carpet. The only person who can afford Raila Odinga is William Ruto. And this is the thing. Kenya Kwanza MPs, who are my friends, tells me, so long as they have Raila, they have the government and they can win the next election, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, does Raila have a cost and a price? Yes, he does, isn't it? His price is very high, isn't it? The only person who can afford him is William Ruto. And William Ruto can afford him. And because William Ruto can afford him and knows that with him he's safe, he will spend anything. In fact, William Ruto would rather do it, maybe even make other people fast. Even himself he would fast, but ensure Raila is happy. So ODM is not leaving the government, mark my word. ODM has even said order now, isn't it? So it's going to become UDA. You heard Sifuna say UDA is dead, isn't it? Why are they saying UDA is dead? They even want Ruto to run on ODM ticket. So there are so many things you hear here, mark my word, they won't leave. Debala, remember when we used to talk with you before, I told you that Ruto will talk to Raila and handshake him. You told me it won't happen. I told you no. Social license, Raila rules the street, Ruto rules State House. Mm-hmm. And because Ruto rules State House and the street feeds State House, Ruto will leave State House because if someone cuts water, cuts sewer system, there's no food going to State House. You have to come out. Hata wanasemanga maneno matamu uondoa panya nyoka pangoni. So Ruto had to come out when Raila tells you, I can save you. So Ruto is not leaving Raila, and Raila is not leaving Ruto. You hear the statement Raila gave about the killing. He says, I'm calling upon the president. He said in Homa Bay that they should stop killing people, isn't it? Mm. Can you imagine? We do a Madaraka Day in Homa Bay. Now how many people from Homa Bay have died? These people don't have morals. And so long as they don't have morals, you don't even know how to judge them. If you tell me, can they live? Do they have values? When you are valueless, you look where money is. So as far as I'm concerned, I said when Raila landed from AU, from Addis Ababa after he didn't get the AUC, he landed in the airport, He looked right and left and saw Kenyans with tear gas. Kenyans were hungry. They could not afford health care. They are shouting mandamano, isn't it? And he saw if he joins them, he's going to join them with tear gas, with mandamano, and sweat on the street. Then he looked right and saw red carpet. Did he even go to Siaya? As soon as he landed, he flew to Mombasa, isn't it? And he was walking red carpet. He's not left till now. Raila has no time to spend on the street. Fred Ogola can run on the street because there's a future which is promising. Raila's sunset days have caught up with him. He has to make decisions on how he can enjoy the few days he has. Even this audience, people following Raila, they are lost because somebody as young as Sifuna still following Raila, hoping that he will get something from there. Raila is concerned about the last days. Even if you go to the Bible, Reverend is here. The thief used the last minute to steal heaven. You understand? The few minutes he had, he took heaven. Raila should look for how to make peace, according to me, but he has not decided that. He wants to create chaos in the country. Chaos by supporting someone who we know very well is not good for this country. So as far as I'm concerned, ODM have no values even to make the decision. They are called Orange Democratic Movement, isn't it? That word D doesn't exist, democracy. Because if they were actually democratic party, they could have not gone to last. Then lastly, you ask a question, do we have political parties? No. In the system, a political party should have locus of control in parliament. And when you go to parliament as a member of parliament, your political party should still have control of you. But here, we don't have that process. We have what we call in America fraternities and sororities. They are just fraternizing. Like if you have a relationship with a woman, you are just fraternizing with her. There is no real relationship, just fraternizing. So these people, ODM is owned by one person, UDA is owned by one person, PLP is owned by one person, DCP owned by one person. If you see DCP, whom do you think about? They have their tickets of those parties under their bed. They have the checkbook of those parties under their bed. If you want to get a ticket from those parties, you have to see their wives and families, isn't it? Those are not political parties. Those are what I call family kiosks that people use to make money. They're not political parties. A real political party must be based on some ideology.
Right, thank you. And of course, we're here now to just look into history. What was, what is, and what ought to be in the current state of play of how also politically the landscape is shaping up as we're heading towards the 2027 elections. Because as it is, everyone is down on the ground. As much as they will say that people are not really campaigning, they are actually officially campaigning, so to speak. There's a lot that we have to also question before we head to the 2027 elections. And that is also the campaign financing bill that has not been shaken into place, and we're talking a good game. And they know it very well that they will kick the can down the road so that it is not affected or ascended to by the president. What is your take before?
Well, I mean, I think Dibal, of course, I mean, the campaign finance bill, just like Chapter 6 of the Constitution, if we're to implement Chapter 6 as it is, you know, if all of these guys will actually go home. So starting with the president and everybody else, we know they don't meet those particular requirements. And so is the campaign finance bill and others. And Dibal, for me, the issue that you're raising there, I mean, in terms of what sort of state do we desire? Honestly, that one we know. It is in our books, it is in our statutes. Everything from political parties and the way they're meant to run. The executive and the way it's meant to run. You know, the minority and the majority, parliament, separation of powers, all those things are very clearly spelled out. I've been saying that the biggest challenge we have in this country is corruption. And normally when I say corruption, people think that I mean individuals getting money. No, I don't mean individuals getting money. I mean corruption from first principles, the way your computer will be corrupted. So it is not actually delivering what it was meant to deliver. It has been modified fraudulently, you know, to serve other purposes. And if I can look at a number of examples, I gave examples of the executive and how we envisage the executive to function constitutionally. Is it functioning like that? No, it has been corrupted. It has been modified to serve some other functions. Parliament, is Parliament operating the way we envisage it to operate constitutionally? No, it's been captured and modified to serve some other function, so it's corrupt. The entire Parliament, not just individuals within Parliament, as a system. And
the judiciary?
Look at this.
What about the judiciary?
Let me use obvious examples that cannot be contested. Look at the issue of delegations to State House. I know Ogola's people went there the other day, where now you go to State House to get development. And meanwhile, was that meant to function like that? We know these things are meant to be debated by members of parliament. Budgets are meant to be done in a consensus way. Monies are meant to be allocated through those particular processes and then passed by law and then financed. So what is this other development that the president is giving? If you look, so that's corruption. If you look at Harambee, Harambee was outlawed. Why was Harambee outlawed? Is it bad to give church money? Is it bad to give schools money? No. The question was, how did we envisage as a society that this particular institution would develop? And those are there. We didn't envisage that they would develop through gifts from the president or from the deputy president. No, that is corruption. We've corrupted the system. So basically, what I'm actually saying, even the president himself, did we envisage that the president would spend 5 years campaigning instead of actually running the state? That is corruption. In other words, these institutions are not functioning the way we envisage them to function. They've been modified, in fact, fraudulently, to serve some other purpose. And that's a big corruption that we have to fight in this country. We must get institutions to function the way they were meant to actually function. But currently, I mean, for me, broad-based government is a corruption. Because did we envisage the state running that way? Did we envisage that after somebody wins election, then they have a handshake with the loser, and then they have an agreement that was not endorsed by the people to run the state that way? That's a corruption. Is a modification, is actually a modification of how these things were meant to function to serve some totally different purpose. And this is what we must look at, because we have a blueprint and many laws and many regulations and many policies, and we agree with them because they're saying this is the blueprint of how our country should run. This is a social contract between how our country should run. But what's happening is that you go to the universities, they're corrupt. They're not running the way they envisage to run. You go to schools, they're corrupt. They're not running the way they're meant to run. All the way, even the judiciary, parliament, the executive. So we're actually having a corrupt system that needs cleansing. So that it goes back. We don't even need to think about what it should be because we know what it should be. What it should be is actually the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and those other details in our law in terms of how everybody should actually operate. The police, again, the police is corrupt, not as individuals. Yes, that's a different story. But we are saying what we are seeing, how the police are conducting themselves, how they are executing the different responsibilities, is that what we envisaged in our laws, in our regulations, in our codes, in the procedures? The answer is no. It's corrupt. It's been corrupted. So this is the big thing that we need to look at. Kenya currently and the entire government is corrupt. And we need to actually purge it of the corruption so that it can go back to its normal state. It's abnormal. That's what I'm saying here. When this thing is corrupt, when your computer is corrupt, what you're seeing there is abnormal. It's not what you're meant to be seeing.
All right, so you need to reset the computer.
Exactly.
All right, we also need to reset, of course, our time a bit and take a short break. When we circle back, we shall hear how then do we reset the country back to normalcy so that we do not have the corruption that is so systemic, gaming the system as it is, as we're hearing from our panelists as well, as we're looking at even the police force, the brutality and the man's inhumanity to man that is happening right now. As we can see now, we don't have any conscience. You can actually just lift your gun with all that temerity and bodaciousness to just, shoot a person in the head instead of maiming as it were, just to, of course, make sure that if it's peace and order that is being threatened, that person does not lose his life. We take a short break. When we circle back, of course, we shall be also getting our closing remarks as we continue with the conversations. Don't go away. You're watching The Insight.